Hey, woodcutters, top saw here. Today I'm going to take those scraps from that shed I built out of the hand-milled pine. I brought all the scraps into the school and we're going to do wood projects out of those scraps. So step one, before I do anything, is surfacing, and the way I'm going to surface it is I'm going to plane top and bottom, then I'm going to joint this edge, and then I'll show you what easy project I'm going to make out of this. Again, these are pine trees that came down on my property, milled them up right there, built a building out of them, and reusing the scraps on them. Over to the joiner to get a straight edge. Surface 1, 2, 3. Over the table saw to get the fourth edge. Surface 4 sides. I'm going to leave these on as tabs to hold it down. Here's the project. Holds 2 wine glasses over a bottle of sparkling cider. This is our rough prototype. So we did this with hand tools, and we're going to work backwards from here to design and build it on the CNC. Here's my working prototype. Not that well refined, but the CNC will come out great. From my working prototype, I need to sketch it out in my notebook. So here it is sketched out. It's 11 by 4.5. That little circle right there, and that circle on that end for the wine glass is 3/4. So that's diameter 3/4 times 2. So we'll put a right side view to show the thickness of the board, 3/4. So all drawn out. Now over to Mastercam to draw it on the CNC and then run it. Okay, let me run through this in Mastercam as quickly as I can. This is Mastercam X7. If you're using a different software, a lot of the tools and functions and the tool pathing is probably all the same. All the ideas are the same. So looking at my screen here, first thing I do is I go machine type router, and I select the tool I'm working with. It's Techno RMD7. That brings up my property manager. I click on properties, stock setup, and I'm gonna, on my big screen here, bring it over here. This stock setup is the size of the wood, not the piece you're cutting out. So in the Y direction, let's say my stock is 5 by 12, but I planed it down to 0.75. Important that I have the cursor in the top center right here. And if I click display, it'll show this box on my screen. Next thing I do is hit F9 to get my Cartesian coordinates. Now I'm going to start drawing my geometry. So to do that, I do that under Create. I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to have it starting at the origin, but I want it centered at the origin. So this button right here anchors it to the center. The actual part is 4.5 by 11. So I'm going to enter that here, 11 and 4.5, 4.5, and then I hit enter. I'm done the operation, so a green check mark. And then this snowflake up here is fit to screen. Next thing I'm going to do is create the circle in the middle. So that's an arc from a center point. I'll snap on the origin, I'll draw out, and I have the diameter at 2 inches, and I'll hit enter. Green check mark, I'm done the operation. Next, I have a circle over here, but I don't want to just put it anywhere, so I'm going to create a construction line. So I go create line from an endpoint. It'll snap right on the midpoint there. I'm not going to draw it over any dimension. I'm going to draw it over a very specific 2 inches. So I enter 2 here and at 0 degrees. And then I hit enter. That line, I got to make sure I erase. It's just giving me an endpoint here. I'm done the operation. Back to create an arc from a center point. I snap not close to, but exactly on the endpoint with that little box, and I draw it out. And that circle has a 3/4 inch diameter or 0.75. And then enter. I'm done the operation, green check mark. This thing coming in is equally spaced on both sides. So I'm going to go X-form offset. Box is up here. Bring it in. I want to copy that line, and I want to copy it at the total width is a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch. This line, and then I'm going to click up to copy it up, and then I'm going to click down to copy it down. Done the operation, green check mark. Then I need to delete my original line. So I'm going to click on that line and hit delete. And then this button up here is clear colors, puts the colors tell you the last order of operations you did. Now I need to trim these lines off. These scissors here are trim. I'm going to specifically use this divide, delete, trim button here. And then as I go over there, you can see it becomes dotted. So that's going to remove that, that, and that. It's all trimmed. And I could draw that again over here, or I could just reflect it. If I'm going to reflect it, probably the best way to do that is to delete this line, create a line to reflect it over. So I'm going to create a line from this endpoint or this midpoint, not close, but exactly snapping on the midpoint. And again, this is a construction line. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to mirror it. So I have the existing geometry. I'm manipulating that geometry. So that's X-form mirror. What do you want to mirror? I want to mirror this line, this, the circle, this, and this. Once I'm done selecting, I hit the green ball up here to say end selection. This thing pops up, and what do you want to do with it? I want to copy it. I want to copy it over a vertical line X. So I click that, and it's going to reflect it over there, and then green check mark. You got to be careful you don't do this a bunch of time and stack a bunch of lines on top of each other, because then the tool pathing won't work even if it looks good. Again, the clear colors. Everything here looks good. I'm all done with my geometry. Do need to delete that construction line. One thing that you might do is if you hit that roller mouse and drag it around, it'll pull it into 3D, and you can see that surface is flat on the top. If you start drawing now, you'll be up in space. So to go back to a top view, this box right here is top view, and then now you're drawing on top of the box again. Now I'm going to tool path, so I'm going to hit tool path. I'm going to do a contour. I'm going to name it. I have to do the circle first, so it stays fixed on my tabletop. So I'm going to do the circle first. I'm going to do it as a chain. I'm going to click over on this side of the circle and make sure that I am going counterclockwise. So on this circle, I'm going counterclockwise. And then on my part, I'm actually going to click close to this endpoint, and that's going clockwise. So I'm going to be able to tool path this whole thing in one single tool path, as long as I go counterclockwise on this to put the cutter on the inside, and clockwise on this to put the cutter on the outside. So I'm all done with that. I'm going to roll through here. Tool, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch straight end mill. Feed rate. So I want to make sure it's a 1/4 inch bit. My feed rate is going to be 100 inches per minute. Plunge rate, half of that, 50. Blue is going to hold that setting. Holder, nothing to be done there. Cut parameters. So I want it on computer and left so that when I go counterclockwise, it's on the inside. But when I go clockwise around the part, it's on the outside. So that's really important. I'm going to go depth of cut. I'm going to select that. This is less than the diameter of the bit, 0.25. The part's 0.75 thick, so it'll do 3 passes. Hold that. Lead in, lead out. I'm going to deselect that. Breakthrough, nothing. Multi-passes, nothing. Tabs, I am going to tab it. And I'm going to hit automatic tabs, and I'm going to tab all. So that'll help hold the pieces down. And lastly, linking parameters. These all have to be absolute because top of stock is 0. This is negative, and my board is 0.75 thick. Then I'm done. The check is it runs this first. It's going counterclockwise inside the line. Travels over here. It's going clockwise outside the line. That all looks great. I'm going to save it. I go File, Save As, and I'm going to save the file. That's going to save the Mastercam file. And then additionally, I'm also going to post it. So before I post it, though, I want to verify it. So I'm going to click on this. This is going to verify or create an animation of it. It's going to take all this vector information and convert it. But let's go here. So I'm in an isometric view. I'm going to hit play. Cuts the circle in 3 passes. Cuts the part in 3 passes. These are the tabs left over. So that should help hold all these parts and pieces down. That all looks good. Now I'm going to post it. This is converting it into NC file, converting the vectors into Cartesian coordinates. And then this, I need to post it onto a flash drive. And I'm going to hit save. And now what it's doing is taking all of this vector information, converting it into numeric code, which are Cartesian coordinates with operations on how to run from one place to the next. So here's all the lines of code. And you could see how many lines of code we have here. 155 lines of code. The tool out in the shop is actually running this code. So let me close that. And let's go out in the shop and run the part now. Okay, I'm out in the shop. I turn the computer on. I turn the controller on before I open up Techno CNC. Techno CNC is opened up here. To load my file, I go File, E drive, and then I got to, wherever I saved it on there, it has to be an NC file, so pre-process it. I check the time, 140 is probably good, preview's good. It's in the center, 3 passes, cuts this out, then cuts the part out. That all looks good. I use a screwdriver pilot hole. I drill a pilot hole first. Then I'm going to put a screw in. And I need to make sure there is no chance that the router is going to hit the screw at all. And I make sure that I have a square on here and I square it up to the edge of the board. To be safe, I'm actually going to use these plastic nails. So if I do hit this with the router bit, it won't damage it. So this is a super cool part. Hold this on. I have the center of the board drawn, so those pencil cross marks are the center of the board. Now I need to bring the bit right on top of that. Now I need to use these arrows here to move it around and get it centered on my board. Right there, the bit's centered right on that mark. This is a very important step right here. I have to go to this computer screen and tell this computer that is my origin. So now that it's 0, 0, 0, now I can run it. Make sure you have glasses on. Check with somebody. Don't do any of this unless you've been trained in it. This video is nowhere near enough to do this. It's just a reminder of the key points. I'm going to hit start. I'm going to guard this pause switch and the red button in case I need to stop it. So let's go ahead and run it. Okay, I'm all done running it. You can see I paused it right before. You can see the multiple passes. Before I do anything else, I have to Z up. So I always Z up first, Y back, clean up after myself. I left the last little piece on there. And there's my part right there. I could router it and clean it up. I could do a quick router detail. That bearing's too big to fit in there, but I'll do the outside in that circle, making sure I use a hold down stick, glasses on. Router bit's too high up, and that's why I got a chip. So that's really a little unfortunate. Not the right router bit, taking too much off. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment below.